is in front of the spotlight on inside the NFL and gets all this publicity is because he came out and said, I have a dissociative anxiety disorder. If I remember correctly, that's what he called it.
He had
identity. Sorry.
Borderline personality disorder, I believe. And I think Antonio Brown is suffering from what I've seen and dealing with people who've gone through it. It looks like he's suffering from some form of bipolar disorder because this is a manic episode that has festered now for the entire NFL season and even before. I genuinely think there is something wrong. And one of our contributors who works with Scott, Rudy Reyes, has been all over this situation as well. He's all over Twitter. He's talked about, and you've seen it as well, Jake, just the debacle that is.
It's scary.
I mean, yeah, you go first. You're saying you're the greatest 6th-round draft pick of all time, and now there's a 3-minute video of you defiling a cop and insulting their integrity because they're in your driveway and they won't leave, and you're yelling in front of a kid, like in front of your house, like shouting slurs and just cursing. It's definitely, you said it best. It's a sign of somebody who's really in dire straits mentally.
My question is Antonio Brown has all of these entourages, these friends, these family that we all hear about, but nobody is doing anything. Why is it that Antonio Brown can't catch a break with his mental disorders, but Luke Kuechly can? Why is it that Luke Kuechly understood? I mean, I remember, go back to 2016, on Thursday Night Football, when he got absolutely mauled. And it was a helmet-to-helmet hit, and he had no idea where he was. And Sean O'Hara was talking about this on the Dan Patrick Show with Luke Kuechly. He was talking about how Kuechly was not going full force like he used to. He was kind of being a little bit hesitant on how to hit a running back or hit a receiver that was coming near him. And Kuechly realized he had to do something he hated to do, but wanted to do it for his health, and that was walk away from the game he loves. And that's why he's getting all this attention and this applause, because he's doing something that Patrick Willis, Chris Borland, and Andrew Luck have all done. Why is nobody doing that for Antonio Brown? Why does he continuously get away with all this? And if he doesn't, it's going to start to come to a point where he might have to run down away from the path of Brandon Marshall, where Marshall got his help.
Right.
God bless him. But Brown is not. And it could come to a point that help is no longer necessary, and he could possibly be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm being very speculative at this point here, but I got off my point here a little bit. The point is that when your agent that has gone through all this muck with Terrell Owens and Randy Moss and all these kind of guys throughout his career, and he says you're terminated, that should be the biggest red flag in America right now, waving in front of you and saying you need help.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the thing about Antonio Brown is his career has been on a train wreck, and he got away with so much because Mike Tomlin tolerated him and put winning at a premium. And Mike Tomlin, to me, is a heck of a coach when you consider he had to deal with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Now you've got other organizations who are less tolerant, and they're not paying millions of dollars for that much drama, where the drama outweighs his production. You're right. Drew Rosenhaus has an awful lot of patience is what he does. And you know what? Unfortunately, Brown's career is over. Mm-hmm. Until anybody can give me a reason. And I think he'll wake up at some point realizing, wow. But at that point, it's too late. Even Josh Gordon, who's had drug problems, at least he showed remorse.
Johnny Manziel as well.
Well, right. But my point is, these guys here didn't go totally ballistic on social media. If they had problems, then you were more sympathetic to giving them other chances to get back. Unfortunately, a guy I wish would have gotten another chance, but the timing wasn't right, and he was on the decline, was Ray Rice.
Absolutely.
And I think that Ray Rice became a better person because he made a mistake, he owned it, and he tried to rehabilitate himself, but he was on the downside of his career. Mm-hmm. So where's all this going, okay? Antonio Brown has finally crossed the final line. And I don't think, I'm not to say that guys that, at some point, when do you learn that social media is either your best friend or your worst enemy? You can't.
I'm not. Said this too, and I said this to a couple of people that I've had on my show, on my Turning Points podcast. I have said a million times. There is one thing I do not do during football games. I don't tweet. Mm-hmm. I don't go on Facebook. I don't go on Instagram because I know how I am as a person when I'm a football fan, cheering on my Packers or something, or just watching a football game. If I'm not being paid for it, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And the fact is, and I love it how everybody says, oh, we live in a society where, they spout off their tweets. They're tweets.
Right.
Okay? They're like Instagram and Facebook. It's just an excuse for people to believe that, I'm so close to this guy. No, you're not.
Right.
It's just a bunch of words. It's just like 140 words or less. And then that's all it is. And if you have the platform that Antonio Brown has, and you're going off on these weird tangents like you're on InfoWars, there is something wrong with you. And here's the thing too. Every team in the NFL has a Twitter account. It's an official account. There are general managers that have this, ownerships that do have this. If they see this kind of stuff, they are going to find a way to blackball you and say, we don't want to deal with your stuff anymore. How many times you mentioned Josh Gordon? You know how many times this guy has gotten a chance?
Right.
6. He has been on the Browns twice. He has been with the Patriots twice. And he has thrown it all away because he's an addict. And then he gets another chance with the Seattle Seahawks. And then he makes a couple of great catches, and he gets in trouble again.
Yeah.
But there's one thing Josh Gordon never did. And he never did the destructive platform that Antonio Brown has created for himself. And it doesn't look like he's going to get out of. Right. Josh Gordon just has to deal with the problems that he has.
Right.
Just go back to rehab. He understands that. But the biggest issue with Antonio Brown is that he's an addict. He's an addict to social media. He's an addict to all the attention. There's a reason why this guy showed up in a hot air balloon with the Raiders. There's a reason why he showed up in a Rolls Royce with the Steelers. And you talk about Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick and all these guys. They gave all these chances to guys with God-given talent with Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown. If Bill Belichick tells you, I can't trust you anymore, you're out.
That's true. Well, not only that, he had a tryout with the Saints, and they didn't want anything to do with him, and then he made it look like that was a publicity stunt. So how many teams can you actually get involved with until all of a sudden it isn't a one-time situation, but it becomes repetition? But again, Antonio Brown to me is unfortunately a dead issue. And you know what? He'll wake up one of these days and realize, okay, who in their right mind would waste their time with a social media cancer? Because that's what he is. He's got a lot of problems. And now with the NFL, even if he gets signed, he'll be suspended. And he's gotten to a point where nobody's going to get sympathy. You did mention Josh Gordon. I know we talked about it. I still have some sympathy for Josh Gordon, though. I do too. I mean, the guy, there isn't a person out there with a half a brain that isn't cheering for the guy. There really isn't. And, he's a talented player. And he's been around Brady, okay? And, he was Cleveland gave him a lot of chances. I have a heart for him. I have none for Brown. Zero.
No, I don't. And, and you're absolutely right. I mean, when you pretty much burn bridge after bridge after bridge, and you're not realizing it, there's something wrong with you. And I'll just bring up me, for example, okay? When I was 23 years old, and I don't really tell people this, okay? But when I was 23 years old, I graduated from my first college, which was St. Cloud State University. And I graduated in mass communications. I was great at what I did. I was I was, the Friday sports anchor for school, and I was shooting packages and all that kind of stuff. The biggest problem I had the most was my ego. My ego forced me to burn bridge after bridge after bridge.
Right.
To the point where I had to rebuild my life and realize I was rock bottom. Antonio Brown doesn't realize he was rock bottom. I was.
Right.
I finally, and it took me a couple of years for me to realize it. It took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to realize I was financially and professionally rock bottom. And I had to go do something. So I went into the military. I did 3 hard years. I got hurt. And then I had to go through it again. And I had to fight my way. And it takes time to take care of your mental health, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It wasn't like I flipped on a light switch.
Right.
Brown has to realize it's going to take years and years to heal yourself mentally because you're not all there right now. And it's scary. So I'm just saying.
Well, he's going down an unknown road, and here's the biggest tangible factor of it all. You ready? Okay?
What's that?
How much money has he lost?
Millions.
Exactly. That's my point. All right, I want to go on to one other thing that we didn't talk about earlier, but I think it's appropriate that we end the show on this note, okay? We've talked about it. It's a recurring thing, and that's a cheating situation going on in baseball.
Yes.
Obviously, we know about the Houston Astros debacle, which has really become a bigger debacle. Boston Red Sox is a debacle, and now, of course, the New York Mets situation isn't as much of a debacle of the three. So my question to you, Jake, is this, okay?
Yeah.
Who do you predict will be the managers in each of these three situations?
Well, the Mets have a tough situation ahead of them right now. At least the Houston Astros have not stopped. They made Joe Espada their bench coach, the interim manager right now. They are currently looking at third base coach for the Chicago Cubs, Will Venable.
Mm-hmm.
So the Houston Astros are wasting no time to try and finding a manager, and then they'll go and find a general they'll go find a manager, then they'll go find a general manager. So I give credit to them. The Red Sox are in a very peculiar situation. The question is, how much really is this Alex Cora, and how much of this is dealing with what Dave Dombrowski left behind? Because what Dave Dombrowski left behind right now for this new Red Sox regime is a big financial issue.
Oh, yeah.
So the Red Sox are kind of in a tough situation right now financially where they need to figure out who is the right guy to come in here and fix all of this. And then the Mets. This is just what the Mets are. They have a former agent as a general manager. They just mess up on hire after hire after hire.
Right.
It doesn't matter who is playing for the club. They always mess up. And I just don't know who is going to take on this mess right now at the New York Mets. I figure they're going to have to go outside the box. They're going to have to go find somebody. Maybe a former player that is not caught up in a cheating scandal might be a good step forward. Or go find somebody in the minor leagues or something like that. But right now I feel like the Houston Astros are on the right track. Look, I know everybody wants to say they're cheaters and all this kind of stuff. They're still loaded. They still got very good pitching.
Right.
They have the right pedigree around their organization to be able to bring in a general manager and a manager. Right now, the Red Sox are in a very difficult situation, and the Mets are still the Mets right now. So I think the Houston Astros, they have taken the most responsibility. They have the most to be punished for. Keep in mind, the Red Sox, they could still be punished. Even though they got rid of Alex Cora, they could still be underneath that umbrella of trouble. And then it's also with the New York Mets. Now, the Mets, they aren't going to get anything. They fired the manager they needed to because Carlos Beltran was in on this. He knew about it, and I don't care. You can apologize till the cows come home. You knew what you were doing, and you need to take responsibility for it. So I believe the Houston Astros will be that team that will be able to rebuild quicker. Right now, the Red Sox and the Mets it's just too tough to call right now.
All right, so let me give you my take on each of these situations. First of all, okay, the Houston Astros, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but now that you're on here, I want to just run it by you as well. All are better served to get a experienced manager. I know that you mentioned, Lewis, that John Gibbons was interviewed earlier. Buck Showalter would be the